Hello and welcome to this IChemE Global Awards webinar. My name is Matt Stalker and I'll be hosting today's session. The IChemE Global Awards celebrate chemical, process and biochemical engineering excellence and are widely recognised as the world's most prestigious chemical engineering awards. Today we'll be announcing the winner of the IChemE 2020 Training and Development Award, sponsored by the Chemical Engineer. This award recognises the organisation that best demonstrates excellence in training and development of staff or education of a wider community. Here are our finalists. CGU of Adhesia, a joint entry from ExxonMobil Chemical and Esso Petroleum Company. Winner of the IChemE Malaysia Training and Development Award, Petronas Penipisan. Safety Solutions, a joint entry from Sellafield, the Office for Nuclear Regulation, AWE, Dounreay, the National Nuclear Laboratory, and Urenco Capenhurst. And finally, Imperial College London. All of our finalists have been invited to join us today and give a short presentation on their work. Unfortunately, Exxon and Esso are unable to be with us, but we will have presentations from our 5 other finalists. Subject to time, we'll be inviting your questions. If you have a question for any of our presenters, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar portal. But now it's time to get started with our first finalist, and representing CGU of Odisha, it's Sanjeev Kumar Raut.
Hello, good afternoon to all. My presentation, is focused about the water technology and its implementation and the impact for the benefit of our country. The C.B. Raman Global University, it is a newly established state university located in the state of Odisha, and it was a 23 years old engineering college which has been recently declared as an university. Our main focus is future of skill engineering programs which will really empower the future generation of our country. The water technology is one of the very emerging area for our country, which we started thinking about it after the World Skill Kazan. And in World Skill Kazan, it was introduced as aquatronics, and we followed it in Abu Dhabi, and in World Skill Brazil, then we followed it in Abu Dhabi, and it was introduced as water technology there. And then we thought of collaborating with all the required agencies to start this program in our country, because water technology till date was not a very usual program in the engineering programs across the country. So we collaborated with FESTO in collaboration with ADIRO, the National Skill Development Corporation, and various other organizations to set up the World Skills Center for the water technology. And the objective was to train the future manpower and engineer for our country, those who will take active participation in managing the industry of water technology, treatment plants, water harvesting, and all the related emerging technology required for our country. And with the second year of our total effort in setting up the world scale, and we participated in the world scale Kajan with the water technology. Our student, Mr. Ashwat Narayan, he became the national champion, and then we participated in the world championship in Kazan, Russia, and we won the gold medal. The whole process and the whole effort, one component is winning a medal, and the most important component was to really introduce water technology in our country, which is growing in a big way. And the same year, the government also has established a Ministry of Water to give emphasis on harvesting and water irrigation and all the treatments of recycling of the water. And that time, this course really has impacted, and the success of Mr. Ashwat Narayan and the Sibiraman Global University for winning the gold medal, and it really impacted. And now it's becoming a regular program, and we are into developing a lot of manpower for the water technology area, and in future we'll be one of the lead supplier of the manpower, technical manpower for the water treatment plants and all the water related industries. And we feel the impact is across the country, and now we are setting up the latest World Skill Academy in our campus, where we are offering all the future of skills program along with the water technology, because water technology is an integrated program where you need chemical engineering, mechanical, electrical, and a lot of programs to be offered, so that this skill can be offered. So we did everything, and today we are one of the leader in the training of the water technology in our country. And we hope in the future all the required manpower, the future of the skills manpower in the area of water technology can be trained in our university, and we can really contribute to our country for supporting for this cause. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. If you have any questions, you can.
Thank you very much. And so we do have a few minutes for questions. So if you do have one, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar portal. While I give you a moment on that, let me remind you that this is one of a series of IChemE Global Awards webinars taking place throughout November. And if you'd like to find out more about what's still to come, and there are plenty more still to come, please visit icheme.org/global awards. That's icheme.org/global awards. Right, we don't appear to have any questions, Sanjib, so we're going to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It is now time for our next finalist, and this is from Petronas Penipizan. It's HAZOP Tahir. HAZOP, you are still muted at the moment. If you could just unmute yourself.
All right, thanks. So good evening, everyone from Malaysia. Good morning to the people everywhere, especially everyone attending this global webinar. So my name is Huzaimi. I am a executive in health, safety, and environment within Petronas Penapisan Terengganu. So I am here to present about the project entitled Redefining Health, Safety, Security, and Environment Education through the Center of HSSE Excellence, which is COHEX. So a little bit of an overview of the company, PPTSV. It is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of Petronas. It is incorporated in, it is incorporated in, it is incorporated in 1982 with the managing operator. We are also the managing operator of PC Aromatics Sdn Bhd Pikaro, incorporated in July 2000. We are located in Terengganu, Malaysia, and we encompass 482 dedicated men and women. So, going straight to COHEX. COHEX is actually a building. You can imagine a building within the premises of PPTSB. We have an auditorium which is capable of fitting 50 participants. It has a capacity to have PA system. There's an internet connection. There's microphones, and I think it is a fertile place to do trainings, workshops, sharing sessions, and seminars. But beyond that, and I think this is what makes it a bit unique, is that it is an interactive gallery. There is an interactive gallery of health, safety, and environment elements attached to it. So you can imagine this being like a museum whereby you have posters and pictures explaining about different elements of HSSE. You also have different models that you can interact with, that people can touch, people can ask questions, and we also have guided tours. So if you imagine, if you go to any form of museums, you have people who are chaperones that explains to you what is this element, or what is this thing, and they will explain it. And I think those are the things that make COHEX different, and that's why within Malaysia, as far as I know, we are the only company that has a built-in educational building that can cater to these specific elements, that has an interactive gallery that can attend to aspire leaders, HSSE enthusiasts, as well as university students. More on the gallery, right? So talking about the gallery consists of 19 different segments. It's like a snake, but really a lot of people get excited when they get into this kind of walkthrough. You get into a confined space area whereby it's a miniature version, but at least people can have the experience of going in and going out of a confined space, whereby usually you have to have certain levels of competency to get into confined space. It allows for people to be exposed without necessarily having the competency required. And I think that exposure really helps in terms of educating people. We also have a tunnel of lessons learned towards the end, which explains any form of process safety events or process safety incident that has happened within the company, as well as things that have happened beyond the industry, and how we can learn from all of that. And I think this is how we have made ourselves different from one another with regards to how we are enriching lives of our stakeholders. Speaking about enriching lives, it is actually aligned with the company's statement of purpose, whereby Petronas is a progressive energy and solutions partner enriching lives for a sustainable future. So with regards to enriching lives for a sustainable future, we are very passionate on collaborative learning through best practices, reflective learning through past incidents, as well as community outreach through HSSE education. When we talk about collaborative learning, we are talking about contractors. Contractors are the main workers within a factory, within our operating unit. You can imagine 70% of people coming into our premises are these contractors. They come from different backgrounds, different working cultures, and different competencies. But every single individual, or every single company at least, has different practices that might make them better companies than others. So we feel like there's a lot to bridge with regards to building their competency, and that's why we established the contractor best practice sharing sessions. It provides a platform for contractors to share their respective best practices that can be replicated, and to discuss on any related concerns in a transparent medium. So so far as October 2020, around 20 different companies have engaged and have been involved with this contractor best practice sharing, and we have done 2 sessions, and we're looking forward to getting more sessions done in the future. Besides that, we are also doing reflective learning through past incidents. So when we talk about learning from past incidents, oftentimes you are looking at technical reports from incidents like injuries or fire or spills, and we learn about sequence of events, as well as the action items that we need to do in order to improve and close our gaps. HSSE Lunchbox is a platform whereby we allow for a forum-style engagement, whereby there's a human-to-human interaction with the actual respondents of incidents sharing their side of the story. When I talk about actual respondents, I'm talking about individuals who are the first line respondents, who are the firefighters probably. We are talking about the investigation team themselves, as well as the management. And I think the human effect, and I've been in all of these HSSE Lunchbox sessions, and I think the missing element of the technical reports is the human touch. When you see, when you hear stories of these frontliners telling how they are nervous when they have to face fires, when managers explain how they have to confront families when the family's breadwinner, the father, is injured or even worse, died in the facility. I think these are the kind of stories that do not get passed into reports, and I think HSSE Lunchbox provides that platform to bridge that connection so that people learn and people do not want to repeat those incidents ever again. So to date, we have 6 sessions that have been conducted, 3 in 2019 and 3 in 2020. Lastly is the community outreach through HSSE education. This is where we see students have a lot of demand for HSSE education, but they want it beyond theory. They want exposure to the real grit of the industry. So students, one of the feedback that we got was that students learn about HSSE in education in university, but they lack the sense of appreciation. Therefore, PPTSB created an event called Real Plan Experience, whereby it is an opportunity for university students to engage subject matter experts in-house. So we talk about engineers in-house. These are people who are chemical engineers, sharing what they learn, sharing what they do, how they can learn, how they bridge what they learn in university with what they're applying, and then the students get to interact within a gallery. And a lot of these kids, after they experience this, they would tell stories like they want to encourage other people to come in, they want to make other universities to come in, and I think that's very heartwarming to listen to, because at the very least, if we can make at least one kid want to learn more about safety, you create a better culture within the society to become safer, to become more safety conscious, and I think that's something that we can all strive for that's better in this world today. I just want to also highlight how COHEX aligns ourselves with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, whereby one of the targets of the goal, which is quality education, is to substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational skills for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship. And I think COHEX really drills down to technical and vocational skills for our programs, and we're very proud that we have this platform to collaborate and do more to our stakeholders. I would just like to end my presentation by just quoting one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to, I think the inspiration for COHEX itself. I think not necessarily the individual, but Nelson Mandela, one of the famous quotes from Nelson Mandela was that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And I think if we can play even a small role to create that weapon to change the world, I think we are in the right track to make training and development become something much more enriching and fulfilling to everyone's lives. Thank you. I'm okay with any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, we do have time for questions. So if you'd like to ask one, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar portal. First question, what common platforms do you deploy in order to share contractor safety knowledge, considering the vast global safety regulations to ensure effective knowledge transfer?
Okay, so thanks for the question. So oftentimes, with regards to contractor best practice sharing sessions, these contractors are already the people who are working within the company. So they already know what are their jobs within their specific roles and within their own context. So sometimes when we talk about contractors' performance, it's about whether they are contributing to a lot of non-compliances within the plant, whether they made a lot of errors with regards to completing their permits, whether they are not isolating energies properly. So sometimes the contractors who have these best practices have special routines or systems of work that create a lot more efficiency when they do that work. So that platform is, I don't necessarily think that there is a specific platform, but rather we just identify companies that are really performing well with regards to contractor performance, and we highlight their best practices. And it's literally just as how we are doing this global seminar. We share best practices, and then we toss our ideas back and forth in order to see how we can better ourselves and each other. So I'm not sure whether that answers the question, but it's about each company wants to just share what they do best.
Okay, thank you. Do you certify applicants on the training you provide?
So with regards to, if you want to talk about students, we provide certificates because like students would want those certificates, and we do provide certificates. But with regards to trainings, we could use COHEX as a method of training contractors or new staff in. So what happens is when new contractors come in for their safety briefings, or not students, when new staff comes in, when it comes to exposing them to the hazards, you want to make sure that there's a fine line that you thread with regards to making sure that they're exposed to the hazards and the right safe system of work, but at the same time not directly exposed to the hazard that they might end up being a statistic. So COHEX provides that very fine line whereby people can ask questions about, oh, why is it that when we want to use chemical, you have to wear specific personal protective equipment? You can ask questions, you can then try, or you can see the different types of gloves and why certain different types of gloves is only applicable to different chemicals. So with regards to certification, we have not yet come to providing really certified certifications. However, we are already training people through COHEX, and that allows for a safety induction program before they go into work.
Okay, thank you, Hazami. We need to move on. So thank you for your presentation. It's now time for our next finalist, and representing Safety Solutions, please welcome Paul Felto. Hi, Paul, you are muted still, and if you just want to switch your display settings so we can see the other view of your slides. There's a display settings at the top left of your screen if you just choose the other option on that drop down. Yeah, and you're still muted. I can't hear you at the moment. There we go. We've unmuted you there.
Right, sorry about that. Display set. I'm on the wrong source screen. Yeah. All right. Main monitor too. There we go.
Perfect. Over to you.
That's nice. Nice. Excellent. Okay. All right. Good morning, folks. Good evening, folks. Wherever you are in the world, it's strange times these days, but welcome to our global audience. My name's Paul Felto, and I'm the Managing Director of Safety Solutions. I'm based in New Zealand here, so calling from the bottom of the world. It's near midnight here, so I welcome everybody. I'll be presenting today on our project that we've put ourselves forward for, and our project's around process safety e-learning development. And yeah, I'm very happy to present to the IChemE this evening. All right, so a bit about myself and a bit about my company. So we were formed in 1993 in New Zealand. So for those who are not aware of where that is, that's pretty much at the bottom of the world. We were formed with a singular focus on process safety. So the vision of our founder was very much a process safety organization. And a large part of that was, our vision was a large part of that was training. So throughout our 27 years, we have helped, I guess some of our achievements, we've helped popularize common process safety techniques in the country, like HAZOP and LOPA, and we've trained over 3,000 people over the years in a number of topics in that space. So training has been a big focus, and we believe that it's one of the key mechanisms to drive improvements. So competence development, we don't believe you can achieve process safety performance without good competence programs. We have several popular face-to-face courses that we've developed over the years, and also we've had a long history with IChemE dating back to the 70s when Trevor Kletz was involved with IChemE. We now are spread across New Zealand. We have 2 locations in New Zealand, and also we have an office in Melbourne. So our team has come from many jurisdictions, including North America, Australasia, Europe, and Asia. So this is reflected in our approach and delivery. So we believe that to turn the dial on process safety performance, that the full organization needs to develop competence. This is an idea promoted by the ISC, the IChemE Safety Center, and other organizations. My observation is that the corporate world has done well in educating the focal points and evangelists. However, there still remains a gap with the broader organization, including the frontline staff, and these are the people most exposed to potential events. So having run a training business over 15 years, my observation is that the costs and logistics of face-to-face training remain a barrier to achieve organizational competence. So to address this challenge, our vision is that competency development should be built on a common baseline. This develops an understanding amongst all staff of the language and the goals that you're trying to achieve. Once this baseline is developed, then specific training and competency development to groups such as executives, engineers, and operators can be layered on top. Other aspects of our vision include achieving a widespread use within an organization, incorporating adult learning principles, and enabling blended learning opportunities where e-learning and the face-to-face models actually come together. So you don't need to have one or the other. All right, we strongly believe that face-to-face training has its place. However, to address the challenges and vision, we feel that e-learning can help bridge that gap. Face-to-face training has its strengths associated with the trainer and the trainees being in the same room. We've all been there and done that. However, e-learning enables scale, corporate management, and bespoke versions and messages to be delivered. Some of our clients include videos of their leadership talking about process safety before they actually go into the training course, and that sets the right tone for the training program. The effort of a successful e-learning project doesn't leave much short change out of 1,000 hours of effort. These projects were executed through a specific development process which featured storyboarding, testing with clientele, and online deployment. This effort leveraged our portfolio of training courses, and it is important to note that the feedback loop is critical to ensure that the products continue to evolve and develop. The online use of the e-learning courses can either be through a public learning, what we call a learning management system. That's sort of e-learning speak, and this is typically hosted somewhere on the web. An alternate model is also to deliver this within a corporate LMS, a corporate learning management system, where we actually implant the training, the process safety training, into a corporate environment where our clients can manage it themselves. And this allows them to this allows us to customize that training for them, depending on their needs, their language, and their model, their PSM model. So we've developed, within this program over the last few years, we've developed 2 courses. One is called the Introduction to Process Safety, and the other is called HAZOP Participants. The Introduction to Process Safety course is aimed at the whole organization and is taught through a plan, do, check, act model. The content is interactive, includes assessments, and is self-paced. So people can do an hour, go back to their jobs, continue on, do an hour, do some assessments, and continue. It includes 6 to 8 hours of content, and the trainees get a full appreciation of how their role fits into the PSM model. The second course is also called HAZOP Participants. It takes a similar amount of time, and is focused on the HAZOP process and features a simulated HAZOP room where participants, minutes, and drawings interact. This project received some national R&D funding when it was developed, and it was approved as a qualification mechanism into national competency standards. So what are the benefits we've seen? So after implementing the e-learning projects, the following benefits were verified. There was a willingness to train the whole organization. And for some, confidence insight that the LMS gave them allowed them to alter what they were doing within those organizations. Over 600 people have been trained in the last year, and the future is looking positive. We've incorporated this model into our face-to-face learning, so we now have an opportunity to do what we call blended learning, where the e-learning and the face-to-face learning lives together. Of course, the cost is a significant enabler. It's the cost to our clients and the savings they have in terms of travel and mileage. That's significant. So just to sort of give a few final thoughts. Was it an easy process? Not really. Over 1,000 hours per course, significant investment, a lot of heartache, but it was worth it. Did we deliver on the vision? We think so. A lot of people have gone through the training, and we get a lot of positive feedback. Will we continue? Absolutely. And have we made a difference? So that it really comes down to, do you make a difference? Are you implementing your vision? And we think we are. So time will tell, but we are confident that we're on the right path. And so with that, I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you, Paul. So if you have a question for Paul, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar portal. We'll pause for just a moment. While we do that, it's an opportune moment to thank our judging panel, our volunteer judging panel led by Head Judge Keith Batchelor. Review and score every entry across all of our categories. So it's a big piece of work. They take a lot of time on over the summer, or UK summer, every year. You can find out more about the judging panel on the IChemE Global Awards web pages. First question is, do you have a course calendar and any more detailed content that you could share?
If you like to see the course calendar, you can go to our website, and there's a video that you can observe. It's both courses have a detailed agenda on their website, and there's videos that you can watch to get a feel for the training content.
Okay, thank you. Another question around the 1,000 hours development. Is that 1,000 hours per course or per day of finished product?
Per course.
Okay.
Of development time. So that's the time to develop the content, implement it, tune it, debug it, make sure it's ready for market. It takes to develop quality e-learning. It takes some effort, yeah. And that's starting from an established face-to-face training portfolio as well. That's not from a blank sheet.
Okay, I think we are out of questions, so we'll move on. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for joining us very late on your Thursday night. Much appreciated. Our next finalists have submitted a video. So this video represents the joint entry from Sellafield Limited, the Office for Nuclear Regulation, AWE Aldermaston, Dounreay Site Restoration, the National Nuclear Laboratory, and Urenco Capenhurst.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Sean Jarman. I am an inspector with the Office for Nuclear Regulation, where one of my roles is to act as the course manager for ONR N20, the Nuclear Chemical Process course. If I may begin with a little background, the Office for Nuclear Regulation are the statutory regulator for the nuclear industry in Great Britain. Our regulatory areas include nuclear safety, health and safety on nuclear sites, civil nuclear security, transport of nuclear materials, and nuclear safeguards. We primarily regulate in accordance with the requirements of the Energy Act 2013 and the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, together with their associated relevant statutory provisions. Well, what is the ONR N20 course? N20 is the Nuclear Chemical Process course. It has existed for quite some time in ONR, and over the last few years I've acted as the course manager, and I like to think it's currently in better shape than it has ever been. It is designed to provide regulatory staff with a grounding in the effective regulation of sites with chemical plant through giving them an understanding of how that plant has evolved, its history, how it is operated, and the challenges that it represents. The course is unique in ONR in that almost all of the content is actually presented by the relevant duty holders themselves. The sharing of the knowledge and understanding of the plant and its operation from those that know it best. The ONR N20 course was designed to promote understanding of the history, engineering, and hazards associated with chemical process plant across the GB nuclear industry, much of which was designed in the 1950s and 1960s, and while post-operation clean-out and decommissioning are now priorities as part of the risk reduction strategy, these were not objectives when the plant was designed, representing unique challenges. We're absolutely delighted to have been shortlisted as a finalist in the IChemE Global Awards, and welcome the recognition of this course as a really solid example of mutual cooperation between regulator and regulated in the interests of safety in what is genuinely a challenging and fast evolving area.
Right, I was just making sure the video had finished. I think it has, so thank you for that. Now I know Sean and Keith Johnson are on the line available to take any questions, so if you do have a question, please do type it into the questions box, and we'll just pause for a moment. And while we do that, if you've been suitably inspired by what you've seen in this webinar, you're thinking about your own entry for next year, we typically open for entries to the IChemE Global Awards at the start of March every year. So once again, keep an eye on our website. It should be the start of March next year that you can submit your entry for our 2021 awards. That's icheme.org/global awards. So we don't appear to have any questions, so we will move on to our final speaker. And last but not least, from Imperial College London, it's Adam Hawkes.
Good morning. Good morning all, or good evening wherever you are. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, and your screen is now being shared. We're just, yeah. Okay, over to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a real honor to be a finalist in the IChemE Global Awards. I want to tell you about a training and development course that we've developed at Imperial College, actually an industry academia collaboration. I think it's quite different to the other courses you've heard about today. So hopefully we'll just add a slightly different aspect to all these very interesting things that people are talking about. Before I dive into what it's actually about, I just want to introduce the team, because it's not just me, of course, who's developed and delivered this course. We have a team of 6 people within the Sustainable Gas Institute at Imperial College London. So as many of you will know, Imperial College is a well-known university, usually rated in the top 10 worldwide. Very science and technology, medicine focused. And most of us are based in the Department of Chemical Engineering, where I am a reader. I'm also the director of the Sustainable Gas Institute there. So the course was developed in collaboration with Professor Nigel Brandon, who is the Dean of Engineering at Imperial. And our sort of subject matter expert is Dr. Paul Balcombe, who's a visiting lecturer in the department as well. The research team consists of Jasmine Cooper, Luke Duby, and Jamie Spears. So all of these people have contributed to development of this course and/or delivery of the course as we go along. So what is this all about? And I want to dwell on this a little bit because it's a bit different to, like I said, to the other courses that have been described today. So we want to raise the profile and essentially create a call to arms for action on methane emissions. So methane is a very important greenhouse gas. It's the second most important greenhouse gas if you look at it in these terms. So this slide shows that basically methane contributes about 1/4 of today's observed global warming. So if you look at global average surface temperature rise, it's about 1 degree at the moment since pre-industrial times. So about 1/4 of that is actually due to methane, whereas normally you hear people talking about carbon dioxide. Of course, we're not arguing that people should not be talking about carbon dioxide. We're just saying that methane is also a very important greenhouse gas. And as you see there, even some indirect impacts as methane breaks down in the atmosphere into ozone or causes stratospheric water formation. It's an important greenhouse gas. And in the context of the climate challenge, why is this important? So here you see the IPCC's decarbonisation pathways over a 100-year time frame in the figure, so 1980 all the way out to 2100. On the vertical axis, you see the net global CO2 equivalent emissions. So what you see on the top line there's kind of a purple reddish line on the top. That shows kind of a business as usual pathway. We just continue creating CO2 emissions, methane emissions, burning coal, burning gas. Over time, you see a global average surface temperature rise of somewhere between 3.2 and 5.4 degrees Celsius. This is radical change from what we see today, so a very different world and probably catastrophic or disastrous climate change. At the other end of the spectrum, right at the bottom of this figure, you see the two lines of interest. The blue line is basically the Kyoto Protocol or later line, where the world agreed to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. And then you see the grey line. So the grey line is the Paris Agreement line, where the world then agreed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, which the global community is interpreted to be about 1.5 degrees. The interesting thing about these lines is that the 2 degree line crosses net zero global CO2 emissions in about 2070, whereas the grey line crosses at that same point at about 2050. So there's a lot of engineers interested in these awards. I don't need to describe to you the scale of the engineering and technical challenge associated with meeting those blue or grey lines. The way we produce, transport, convert, and consume energy needs to change fundamentally over the next few decades. You see how quickly those lines stop from that upward trend and suddenly head very rapidly downwards. So in that context, we need to be aware of methane and its important part in contributing to global warming, and to think about what you can do about methane to ensure we can reach those targets. So where does methane sit in this space? So I'm talking about this here because, well, quite often people don't know about this, but basically there are methane emissions all the way across oil and gas value chain. And they're certainly not the only source of methane emissions. They come from agriculture, they come from various natural sources. And there's also a lot of methane sinks, like there's just breakdown of methane in the atmosphere, and it is actually absorbed by soils as well. But within the oil and gas supply chain, it's an interesting area to think about because there's actually some great opportunities for methane emissions reduction. So what we show here is basically this thing we call super emitters or heavy tails. So if you look on the horizontal axis, you see the number of sources, and on the vertical axis is the total contribution to emissions. So what you see here basically is all the points grouped in the top left of that figure. This means that a very small portion of the sources of methane emissions contribute disproportionately to total emissions. And if we can locate and shut down those sources of emissions, we can do a lot towards reducing the emissions and ultimately mitigating climate change. So it's really important for the industry to focus on those high emitting sources, to find them and to do something about them as quickly as possible. By no means an easy challenge, but an important one. Just the last slide on what this is all about. So actually, it's interesting for the industry, not only because it's important to do something about climate change and social license to operate, and another reason I'll come to in a moment. It's also important because you can make money from doing this too. So this is a marginal abatement cost curve produced by the International Energy Agency, and it shows you that approximately 40% of all emissions of methane can be reduced at net negative costs. So you can actually make money by reducing these emissions. So you see basically all of the options on the left-hand side of this figure up until the point where on the vertical axis you reach zero. So things like replacing pumps, doing leak detection and repair programs, doing recompression of blowdown in gas networks to capture that methane instead of letting it leak out or just venting it or it going through incomplete combustion in a flare. So we think really important issue, climate change, social license to operate, and economics. And I will come to safety in just a moment, but just to give you an overview of the program itself. So what do we actually do? We work within the auspices of the Methane Guiding Principles. This is the Methane Guiding Principles on your screen now. So it's a consortium of industry. It's 23 companies, 16 supporting organizations. They have signed up to these principles: continually reduce methane emissions, make sure you advance performance not only in your company, but also across the supply chain and in your JV partners. Improve accuracy, get the data out there, advocate for policy which allows for innovation and flexibility, and make sure we increase transparency, make sure the world knows about what the industry is doing about methane emissions. So the approach that we've taken in this program, like I said, an academia industry partnership with all of those companies and a range of their partners and supply chain people. The recognition that methane emissions are a supply chain wide issue. There is no point just one part of the supply chain, like for example, gas production, doing something about this. Because if, say, another part of the supply chain in midstream is emitting methane, well, it defeats the purpose. So it's a supply chain-wide issue, and therefore we've developed a course deliberately tailored to bring the supply chain together and allow them to think about this problem, share experiences, and to motivate each other to respond to the issue. It's a real call to the arms to the industry. We include a lot of technical content in there. I'll come back to that in a moment. And we have an approach which combines both senior buy-in via an executive program with the frontline management, technical capability buy-in, and capability building. So two courses, a masterclass, that's those asset managers, it's HSSE, it's operations, it's the managers of those frontline people who might actually be responsible for emissions or need to think about emissions in their day-to-day business. And then on the other side, the executives to either provide the carrots or to crack the whip, to get them to buy in, those senior leaders in the oil and gas supply chains, to make sure the message comes from high in the organization. So what have we done so far? The course was developed in 2019. We've already had more than 100 participant countries. Following those courses, we've done follow-up surveys and discussions, and we have found that the course actually does lead to significant on-the-ground action. There are projects underway that were inspired by the course. We believe it has had great impact on the hearts and minds, and this is where I want to come to safety, the parallel with safety. Obviously, incredibly important issue for the industry. And actually, the way in which the methane guiding principles were put together was inspired by the IOGP life-saving rules, which is an incredibly successful initiative, bringing the issue of safety into the minds of frontline operators. Similarly, we want methane emissions to be in the mind of those operators. Of course, not more important than safety, but in a similar way, people thinking about methane from design all the way through to maintenance of assets. Not only that, there's a reduction of methane emissions, obviously reduces the emissions of an explosive gas, so there are some fairly obvious safety parallels there. I heard great feedback from the courses so far, close to 100% saying it's improved knowledge, and in response to our very unusual situation with COVID-19, we can no longer do face-to-face courses. We totally agree with the other participants here that face-to-face courses certainly have their place, but at the moment we've produced an online live virtual course, so delivered in a similar way to the face-to-face course, but broken up, interactive breakouts, discussions, and there's interactive online feedback tools, etc. We're currently in the process of developing an e-learning offering. It's going to have, similarly to previous presentations, bite-sized chunks that people can digest at their leisure, and then opportunities for panel question sessions so that people can get that feedback that they need, and that will be launched in early 2021. So that's a very brief roundup of the Methane Guiding Principles Global Outreach Program, and I'd be very happy to take questions.
Right, thank you very much, Adam. So we will pause for questions, and once again, if you have one, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar portal. Our first question is, having considered the dispersion model, can you say any more about the limitations of this technology?
Well, I think if you're talking about the dispersion model, as in the distribution of the methane emissions through the supply chain, I think it was fair to say there's a huge range of different technologies which can reduce those emissions. So I guess my point is that one needs to be able to locate or detect, identify, measure, and quantify emissions very effectively. There are a huge range of technologies, and it's a very fast-moving space aimed at doing just that. So there's things like OGI cameras, there's things like high-flow samplers, there's flame ionization detectors, there are even now satellites being launched to detect methane emissions, potentially at facility level in future. The current satellites are a little bit coarser than that, but the new ones going up may well be able to make an impact in that space. So in terms of technology applicability, there's all of this detection, quantification. There's also the mitigation technology, replacing gas pneumatics with, say, electrical or air-driven pneumatics. So there are technologies available. It can be done, and like I said, it can be done at negative cost.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions we have, so we will move on. Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you to all of our finalists for giving up your time and presenting your work today. But we have reached the time that everybody's been waiting for. It's time to reveal the winner of the IChemE 2020 Training and Development Award. So let's begin with our highly commended entries, and they are the entries from the joint entry from ExxonMobil Chemical and Esso Petroleum Company and CGU of Odisha. So well done to everyone associated with those entries. And now for the winner. So ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the IChemE 2020 Training and Development Award, sponsored by the Chemical Engineer, is the joint entry from Sellafield, the Office for Nuclear Regulation, AWE Aldermaston, Dounreay Site Restoration, the National Nuclear Laboratory, and Urenco Capenhurst. Congratulations to everybody associated with that entry. So Keith, Sean, if we can get you back on the line, how does it feel to be an IChemE Award winner? Gobsmacked, I think, is the answer. Clearly, lost for words. There we go.
Keith Johnson here. Anyone who knows me knows that for me to be lost for words is something of a rarity. Gobsmacked was the best description, and extremely pleased. Pleased for everybody who was involved across the Sellafield Limited, across ONR, and across our other partners who were working on this training.
Well, congratulations, Keith. I know you keep a tally of these things in terms of Sellafield's success over the years in the IChemE Awards. Are you, without wanting to put you on the spot, what number does this bring you up to?
I believe it's 13.
Wow. Number 13 in the bag. Well, and of course, you now go into the automatic finalist list for our top prize, the Outstanding Achievement Award, which we present later in the month. So good luck there. But well done to everybody associated with the entry. Is there anybody else you want to thank before we wrap up?
Our chief engineer for having the foresight and the wisdom for us to participate and collaborate with ONR in this manner.
Great. Okay. Well, look, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's joined us today, particularly our presenters who have given up their time to showcase their work. I'm sure you'll agree, some really, really good, varied projects for us to learn about. If you've enjoyed this, do come along for some of our other IChemE Award webinars. They're all free to attend and open to all. You can find the details on our website. But for now, congratulations to our winners and good morning.